Everyone, thanks for joining us this morning. This is the first in a series of webinars regarding Siebel in the digital enterprise. We're going to be running some other webinars here, and in subsequent ones we're going to look at some specific examples of customers applying, for example, different types of technologies like social technologies into their instance or usage of Siebel. But today we're going to be focusing on we're going to be taking a high-level run at identifying where Siebel plays in the age of digital, look at some specific examples of new functionality in Siebel 15 and 16 that aligns with digital, and then look at the need to get current in order to leverage some of these latest improvements. Finally, we'll look at the drivers associated with upgrading, and we'll share some useful customer experiences there. We'll conclude with some Q&A. And if we can't answer all the questions, then we'll leave an email address that you guys can certainly email to us, or we'll email back the answers to you if you use the question block you've got in your control panel. Everybody's on mute, which is pretty much standard practice. I introduce you to today's presenters. I'm Simon Boardman with Eagle Creek. I've been in the tech industry for 30 years and have spent most of that time in and around CRM, even going back as far as Brock Control, if anyone remembers that. And Tom Siebel used to refer to Richard Brock as the grandfather of CRM, so hence that's the reason I mentioned that. Happy that Bruce Daly can join us. Bruce is the publisher of Siebel Hub, and Siebel Hub, as most of you guys probably know, is a kind of all things Siebel destination, and frankly no better place to go to find out detailed information regarding Siebel. And last but not least, Michael Shalhoub, with Eagle Creek, another CRM and particularly Siebel veteran. So just briefly, who are Eagle Creek? We're a technology consulting and services company. We've been around since 1999, providing expertise to the enterprise. We focus on CRM, application development and mobility, and we were the first company to combine our on-site consulting expertise with our off-site but onshore model, and that's a model that most people refer to as rural sourcing or domestic sourcing. So we've been around since 99, that's 17 years, and we've assembled a compendium here of various different enterprise experiences and customers, and that really provides the basis for us today to share some of our experiences with you. So what is the digital enterprise? One of today's problems is when the conversation turns to digital, whether it be the digital enterprise, digital business, digital transformation, there's an inference that intuitively everything that is old, and when I say old I mean anything that's invented in more than 6 weeks ago, is bad. And that's patently not true, and today we'll discuss an example of this. Siebel's obviously been around, you know, for the thick end of 20 years. But what are some of the characteristics, we're going to look at some of the characteristics of digital and how Siebel fits into these. So the first one to look at is pace of change. Digital businesses demonstrate a pace of change that's significantly greater than previously. Opportunities emerge and disappear. They seem to emerge and disappear almost overnight, and in order to capitalize on these, organizations have got to be able to react quickly, or in true agile fashion, even to be able to sense impending change and be ready to take advantage of it. Secondly, talk about the convergence of business and IT, and alignment here has been a challenge for some time for most organizations, but to the point now where one would argue that alignment or IT providing a better service to the business just isn't good enough. We hear statements like IT is the business now, or all companies are high-tech companies. So, you know, high-tech is no longer the exclusive domain of inventors and authors, but it belongs really to those who can innovate with technologies to advance their customer, prospect and employee experiences beyond that of the competition. And that's all about achieving some form of competitive edge. And what I would say here is that less and less companies these days actually own the assets that they used to. So supply chains stretch across the world to manufacturers, suppliers, distributors that design and build and manufacture and house and distribute products. And contrary to how it looked in years gone past, companies no longer own all of those components. And one thing that they do own is their customer experience. And digital is in large part about leveraging technology to provision singular customer experiences. And I think a great example of this recently is that those of you who are familiar with Dollar Shave Club, Dollar Shave Club came to the market about 4 or 5 years ago with their proposition around convenient delivery of products, men's grooming products basically, delivered to you, essentially shaving type products. Well, Dollar Shave Club just got acquired a couple of weeks ago by P&G for $1 billion. Dollar Shave Club's revenue is around 200 million, so it's a 5x revenue deal. But Dollar Shave Club don't own anything. All they own is the customer experience and the marketing that they do. So they're a great example of another great example of a digital business, if you like. So those are three key areas around what we see in the digital enterprise these days. I'm going to hand over to Bruce now. Bruce from the Siebel Hub. Bruce is going to look at some of the sort of more specific examples of how digital fits in with some of those concepts I've talked about. Bruce, over to you.
Thank you, Simon. Over at the Siebel Hub, we're seeing how the pace of change, the convergence of business and IT, and the use of IT as a competitive advantage is changing Siebel. Although we could go into exhaustive detail, let's concentrate on 3 new features: Siebel Composer, open source Siebel, and Siebel in the cloud. Let's also talk a little bit about why Siebel is at the heart of so many organizations. Now, before we get over the features, I think it's important to note that for many organizations, thousands in fact, the digital enterprise would not be possible without Siebel. Over the years, Siebel Systems and then Oracle sold perpetual-based premise licenses to over 5,000 organizations, while our analysis shows that about half of them no longer on Oracle support. The other half, including many very large enterprises, continue to use the product day in and day out. A surprising number of them use Siebel as a customer master, and it's not too much to claim that in many cases they could not run their business without Siebel. One large German telco provider has over 20 million customer records in its Siebel system. They tell me they've spent over 100 man-years customizing it and have tied it so completely into their provisioning and billing systems they'd not be able to sell phones without it. Since this organization does almost 70 billion euros in business a year, Siebel is an essential part of the landscape of their digital strategy. Other proof points, if any were necessary, attesting to Siebel's continued role in many digital enterprises are the almost 7,000 profiles on LinkedIn that have the word Siebel in the title. And on Indeed, there are almost 2,000 open jobs that include the word Siebel somewhere in the description. This shows that Siebel is still in production in many organizations, and there's still a demand for the people who support it. Now, what this slide represents is that while Oracle sees Siebel as a diamond in the rough, it's still a crucial part of the digital footprint. By continuing to offer features specific to individual industries while enhancing the customer experience, Oracle hopes to build business agility into the product today and help organizations move it to the cloud and associate it with up-and-coming technologies like the Internet of Things in the future. As Simon pointed out, new is not always better. When you're running an 80 billion euro business on a system, it better work. Over the years, when implemented correctly, Siebel technology has proven a stable, reliable platform for many businesses, which is why it's still so widely used today. Now, a question I'm often asked is Oracle sincerely executing on this strategy? Are they, in fact, enhancing the customer experience? One could even claim, like our friend Dr. Manuel Bresci, that Siebel OpenUI inspired Oracle's competitors Salesforce and SAP to rework their user interfaces as well. Let's take a look at the Lightning Experience, Salesforce.com's latest UX offering. You don't need an eagle eye to see how new Salesforce UI is similar in design to the standard Aurora theme of Siebel OpenUI. Not only is there a 3-line menu Navicon, but also built into it is responsiveness of design so that you can use the same user interface on different devices with no changes. And SAP is playing the same game as well with OpenUI 5. Now, you may argue this is the current state of the art in web design, yet Oracle's been the first one to deliver this with Siebel OpenUI. So Oracle's not just talking the talk, it's also walking the walk. From now until at least 2028, Oracle's made plans to offer a fix pack in the first half of each year. This upgrade fixes bugs and includes many code changes needed to work the newer versions of Oracle and with other third-party software. At the second half of each year, Oracle plans an innovation pack with new features and enhancements. Oracle's current policy is to provide customers with 3 levels of support for their Siebel applications. The first level, Premier Support, provides 5 years of maintenance and software upgrades. The second, Extended Support, offers less, but for an even longer period. The third, Sustaining Support, can be continued indefinitely. Recently, Oracle's gone one better and is offering multiple releases and bug fixes as it switched from agile development to improve its own business agility. As proof of Oracle's made a commitment to the pace of change digital enterprises require, the Siebel team has already released the 3rd patch set for Innovation Pack 2006. What's in the release? Unfortunately, we don't have time in this webinar to go into a great deal of detail about the feature set, enhancement, and Easter eggs, so we'll concentrate on just one feature, the Business Composer. Here we see the Siebel Composer. So how exactly does this relate to business agility, and what does it mean for the pace of change that Simon alluded to earlier? Digital business accelerates the size and speed at which business changes, and I think the Dollar Shaving Club is a perfect example of that. Organizations have to be able to react more quickly and be ready to take advantage of opportunities as soon as they arise and before anyone else does. In terms of IT, this means moving from waterfall to agile development. How does this manifest itself in Siebel? Is in the form of the Siebel Composer. With a drag-and-drop user interface, private and shared workspaces, and multi-user development, the Composer is a much better fit for agile development than Siebel tools. Although Siebel Composer is in beta, and when we tested it, we found a number of kinks that Oracle still needs to work out, it clearly shows business agility is more than just a buzzword for Oracle. Let's move on and talk now about the convergence of business and IT. Less companies own assets than they used to, and this also includes software. Tom Siebel might be spinning in his grave now if he wasn't still alive and too busy flying his hovercraft to see Siebel's gone open source. Oracle's created a Siebel CRM project on GitHub where organizations and individuals can now share code. In the future, it's not impossible this will evolve into a marketplace where third parties can sell code and expertise in a worldwide market. In this scenario, IT becomes a line of business, but for now, it's an example of the convergence of business and IT. Finally, when you think about using technology as a competitive advantage, better alignment with the business is a struggle for most organizations. IT has become too important in the minds of many business owners to be left in the hands of IT. They don't have the patience to go through the process of building an infrastructure and will often go outside the organization and lease it if they don't feel their needs are being met. Although the cloud is part of a longer-term Oracle strategy to increase its wallet share of existing customers, Oracle is laying the groundwork for that eventual transition today. Both IP 2015 and IP 2016 are now available in the cloud. This gives IT organizations the opportunity to experiment with the cloud by leasing test and development interfaces and trying them out without any outlay of capital. Depending on how integrated Siebel is with legacy systems, moving production systems to the cloud may be premature, but this is clearly the direction the industry is headed because organizations that use tech for competitive advantage will thrive, and deployment in the cloud is an important part of that advantage. So what are you waiting for? We've seen how the pace of change has led to agile development, and Oracle has responded with Siebel Composer. We've seen how the convergence of IT and business has led Oracle to open up Siebel on GitHub. We've seen how the potential of using IT as a competitive advantage has encouraged Oracle to move Siebel to the cloud. You should be taking advantage of agile development, open source, and the cloud by upgrading to IP 15 or 16 for the sake of your organization and the sake of your career. Let's change gears and hear now from Eagle Creek practitioner Michael Shalhoub about how to make all this happen.
Thank you, Bruce, and hello to our global audience. I'm happy to be here this morning to talk to you about one of my favorite subjects, Siebel. I'm going to cover a couple different topics with you. I'm going to talk a little bit about upgrade drivers. I'm going to share with you a little information on our IP 15 and 16 customers and discuss how to get started with a Siebel upgrade. I want you to know that everything I share is purely based on our 17 years of Siebel experience, working with some of the largest and most complex implementations in the world. For most of our customers, Siebel is a foundational and effective application that not only supports front office processes such as account, campaigns, and opportunity management, or all the items you see in red on the screen, but it's also fundamental to managing back office functions such as order management and provisioning, case management, as well as billing and cancellation processes, or all the items you see in blue. This means three things. One, as Bruce alluded to before, Siebel is an enterprise-wide application. It permeates an organization's enterprise and business. Two, organizations have made a significant investment into Siebel, typically to build out processes, business processes, to integrate to other applications, training, etc. And three, it's essential to running the day-to-day business for those companies. These three factors typically provide enough motivation for organizations considering an upgrade. But let's take a look at some other key drivers that influence IP 15 and 16 upgrade decisions. Their compatibility, support, user experience. Let's take a closer look at each. Compatibility is a very common driver. In previous Siebel versions, many customers felt they were held hostage by version support limitations, especially in terms of the web browser. And I think you've all been there before. Siebel's dependency on IE impacted an organization's ability to move to more current browsers, ones that can support other applications better or just keep their organization current. IP 15 and beyond supports all modern browsers and has also been certified in the latest databases and operating systems. The integration framework, along with new themes, allow integrating cloud applications as objects, just like accounts, contacts, or other entities on Siebel screens. Those applications would include Salesforce, Marketo, Burst, or similar applications, basically any cloud application. And lastly, the reporting framework is based on jQuery, which allows integration to all modern reporting tool sets. Another key driver is support. Like with any first-time implementations or an upgrade, organizations are always scrutinizing the effort and cost to support and maintain the application after implementation. One of the most valuable features of IP16 is Siebel Composer, which provides for zero downtime deployments. How does this work? All objects from Siebel tools are moved into the database. This allows developers to publish changes directly into the production environment without the need to compile and promote repositories, resulting in zero downtime deployments. So all of you out there that have been working with Siebel for years, I'm sure understand that this is clearly a monumental change to previous versions. Another great advantage to the new releases is that the development environment is based on a Java platform. The skills needed for development are JavaScript and web technologies like HTML and CSS. These are skill sets that are readily available to complement fully trained Siebel specialists. This makes maintenance, support, and enhancements development possible using in-house staff. But regardless of who's providing the support, organizations should see significant cost reductions in terms of maintenance. Lastly, the number one driver to move to IP 15 and beyond is user experience. Some key features compelling our customers include a modern look and feel available with a new Synergy theme, which promotes easy navigation for touchscreen devices. In addition, organizations have the ability to create additional themes to meet their specific branding requirements. The open integration framework allows for simple integration to social CRM for applications like Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Out-of-the-box availability of mobile templates that can be customized and deployed with the mobile object manager. This includes support for a disconnected user, which is a great feature that I think a lot of folks have been waiting for. And lastly, the availability of responsive design, which allows application resolution to adjust at different screen sizes so users get the same look and feel of the application on desktops, laptops, and tablets. These usability features impact the user's experience and improve application adoption, making them significant factors that have our customers trending towards upgrades to their existing implementations. Our current IP15 and 16 customers include Novo Nordisk, Banco Credematic, Halton Region, Independent Health, and Sleep Number. They range across multiple industries. They have different size user bases, different Siebel versions, different levels of complexity, and the upgrade drivers that span the full list that I've shared with you. I want to feature one customer right now, and that's Banco Credematic. It's a bank based in Central America that presents a lot of complexities. They have a relatively large user base, 5,000 plus users. The primary module they use is financial services, but there's multiple modules, but that's the primary one. Their drivers to moving to IP15, it was open UI features, and they also wanted to get as close as possible to being able to move to Siebel Composer with IP16, and they were a new customer for us. Now, they had 6 different Siebel instances, one for each country they do business in: Nicaragua, Panama, Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador, and Costa Rica. All of them needed to be upgraded and were upgraded. There was a language barrier that we had to solve through strategic staffing. There was extensive use of complex task-based UI. And concurrent to the upgrades that we were doing for them, the Siebel upgrades, there was a concurrent VIP upgrade. So a great deal of planning was required to phase these upgrades and deployments out in a meaningful manner. The 2 takeaways I have for you here is, 1, any level of complexity can be dealt with, and 2, don't ever underestimate the value of experience in your upgrade. And on that note, let's talk about getting started with an upgrade. Regardless of how you opt to complete your upgrade, consider taking these steps to ensure successful execution. First, complete an upgrade questionnaire to capture some basic information regarding your existing CRM implementation. The kind of data you're looking for is the Siebel database, operating system versions, the size of the database. Are you also looking to capture key dates, like the last upgrade that was done or the initial installation that was done? If you're using a third-party vendor to carry out the upgrade, this should be part of their standard operating procedure. If you go it alone, you can create your own questionnaire. Next step is conduct an upgrade assessment. This requires a copy of the local DBF, typically whatever is currently in prod, an updated SRF, and a client and tools installation. You perform a repository count of modified objects and scripting tools. This can be accomplished manually, or you can write a script to accomplish this. The count is from the last upgrade or initial implementation. Another tip for you is, if you're moving from high interactivity to OpenUI, you're going to have to thoroughly investigate browser scripts, as some conversions may be needed. The idea here is to get an idea of the level of complexity that you have with your upgrade. The next step involves meeting with both business and technical stakeholders. These meetings can be conducted in person or via phone. From the business stakeholders, the aim is to learn about the business objectives and the expectations in terms of the functionality they intend to achieve from the upgrade. From the technical team, the aim is to learn about the level of documentation, test scripts, special customizations, and environments, and any other gotchas to look out for during the upgrade. The last step is truly based on your compiled findings from the previous steps. You should now be able to estimate the effort, the number of staff it's going to take, and the timeline required to complete the upgrade. These 4 steps In our opinion, we found that these 4 steps are the key best practices to initiate an upgrade and should underscore the importance of preparation and planning. Simon, back to you for questions.
All right, thanks, Michael. Thanks, Bruce. So we've got time for a few questions, and I've got a couple that have already been, folks have already typed in the question box there. Bruce, this one's probably better for you. It says, how do existing Siebel customers take advantage of the cloud?
That's a good question, Simon. You know, I think in a lot of instances, because Siebel is so deeply entrenched in the digital footprint, what that means from a practical perspective is that there's a lot of legacy systems that are attached to it, that moving to the cloud is, in many cases, going to be a big undertaking. So I think most Siebel customers should consider starting with their development and test environments. And you know, perhaps they're not actively developing all the time. This might give them an opportunity to spin up some development instances, and also in the same light, spin up some test instances. And not only will that save them money, it'll also prepare them for a cloud-based future.
Okay, thank you, Bruce. Next question, I think probably for Michael here. How many Siebel upgrades have you done?
Siebel upgrades. I'd say we don't have an exact number, but just over 50. We've done any flavor you can imagine: 1-step upgrades, 2-step upgrades, every level of complexity. We've also completed over 200 assessments.
Okay, thanks. This is probably another one for you, Michael, and I think what the question is really respect to going to Siebel 15 or 16. It said, isn't there a significant upgrade to LDAP?
LDAP. Yes, in terms of the setup and configuration of the adapter, there is. In IP15 and beyond, LDAP configuration has become part of server installation. So essentially, during the installation, you're now able to invoke a wizard to create the LDAP framework. This automatically creates the user directories in accordance with the installed Siebel enterprise that you have. And I believe it automatically authenticates SADMIT for you as well. Compare that to past versions. In the past, you would have had to configure manually, create the user directories, and authenticate users. And this was done post installation, and it typically involved a lot of troubleshooting, and the more servers you had, the more time it took. So this is, I would consider this a significant enhancement to that process.
Okay, thank you, Michael. I think one more for you. Is Siebel Composer available now?
Yes, it is, but I'm not. You must have missed what Bruce said. It's available in IP16, however, it's still in beta. So you can actually deploy it to a sandbox environment or a development environment that you plan on, playing around in, using it for just ramp up and training. But you can't promote it or deploy it to production. That's because all the data tables for the entire repository have not yet been created. I believe the tables for sales, call center, and service are all there and available, but the remainder of the tables for the other applications are in process right now. And if I'm not mistaken, the target for production availability is going to be late October of this year. But you can't, like I said, you can deploy it to a sandbox environment, but you cannot bring it to production. And you got to ensure that you have a development environment that contains the tools development platform.
All right. Okay, last one we got here. This one I think is for you, Bruce, which is how confident are you in Oracle's future stated roadmap? I guess that's to do with the slide you put up on the Oracle roadmap there.
Well, that's a good question. When Oracle initially bought Siebel, one of the things I spent a lot of time contending was that Oracle wasn't buying Siebel for $5 billion to kill it. And in fact, they've been very successful in coming up with 2 upgrades a year for the last 10 years. Now they've gone to agile development, so they're coming up with almost monthly releases. I think as the roadmap shows, they have a vision for where they want to take the product, and they're executing on that vision. So I think that as long as there are customers out there who have embedded Siebel in their digital infrastructure, and as long as Siebel is really required for them to do business, Oracle is going to continue to support Siebel, and it's going to continue to move the product forward. But thank you for asking.
All right, that's the questions we got time for, folks. I've got Michael Shalhoub's email address there on the screen. If any of you guys think of anything after the webinar's finished, feel free to drop Michael an email, ask him, and be happy to answer any questions. And the questions that we've gotten that we didn't get to answer, we will answer those directly over email. So all remains for me to do is to say thanks for everybody for attending. We will send out a link to a recording of this webinar should you want to replay it for your own pleasures. But for now, that's all from us. We'll let you know about some the other webinars we're going to be embarking on, which are respect to some of the subjects we've explored, some of the subjects we've touched on here as well. But for now, thanks everybody, and we'll speak to you next time.